The Washington Post report says a 6-page set of written terms would require all parties to freeze combat operations for at least 5 days, while an initial 50 hostages or more are released in smaller batches every 24 hours. The stop in fighting would also allow significant amounts of humanitarian assistance, including fuel, into Gaza. The official position from the White House is that no deal has been reached yet, but that the hard work continues.
Qatar's Prime Minister said the sticking points are less about core issues but more logistical in nature.
When you come closer to the goal, you feel your confidence levels are increasing, and we hope that we are reaching to that point. The sticking points, honestly, at this stage are more practical, logistical, not really something represent the core of the deal. The deal is going through ups and downs from time to time throughout the last few weeks. But I think that, I'm now more confident that we are close enough to reach to a deal that can bring the people safely back to their homes, whether they are the hostages on Hamas side or whatever the exchange that will take place from the Israeli side.
President Joe Biden, in a Washington Post op-ed at the weekend, wrote that as long as Hamas clings to its ideology of destruction, a ceasefire is not peace, arguing that a ceasefire would allow Hamas time to rebuild their rocket stockpiles and reposition fighters, a view that is out of step with the United Nations.
You can call it what you will, and everyone has many different words for it. But the requirement from a humanitarian point of view is very simple. Stop the fighting to allow civilians to move safely. Do it for an indefinite period to facilitate an unimpeded humanitarian response. Give the people of Gaza a breather from the terrible things that have been put on them on these last few weeks, and without condition, release all the hostages.
This, as President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Tuesday host a virtual meeting of BRICS' expanded leadership on the current humanitarian crisis in Gaza, a meeting that will be joined by the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. While in Beijing today, foreign ministers from Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, the Palestinian Authority and the Organization for Islamic Cooperation met with China's top diplomat as part of an effort to engage the 5 permanent members of the Security Council.
The international community must act urgently and take practical and effective measures to prevent this tragedy from spreading. Since the outbreak of the conflict, China has stood firmly on the side of justice. We have been working hard to de-escalate the conflict, protect the safety of civilians, expand humanitarian assistance, and the prevention of a humanitarian disaster. We call for the return of the two-state solution and the early realization of a comprehensive, just, and lasting settlement to the Palestinian issue.
The UN General Assembly in December last year passed a resolution calling on the International Court of Justice to provide an advisory opinion on the legal consequences of Israel's decades-long occupation of Palestinian territories.
The resolution asks the ICJ to answer the following questions. What are the legal consequences arising from the ongoing violation by Israel of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, settlement annexation, and efforts to change the character and status of Jerusalem? Additionally, the GA asks the court to address how the policies and practices of Israel affect the legal status of the occupation and what the legal consequences are that arise for all states and the United Nations in that regard. The court has indicated it will hold public hearings when the case opens for arguments on February 19th. Sheikh, SABC News, New York.